Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the audit meeting for the month of August. We're still, I think we still have a couple vouchers that need signature, or are we good on that right now?
There was only one.
Okay.
Mr. Otis signed it.
All right, so you got roll call, Dan?
Councilmember Newman.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue.
Here.
Supervisor Guzman.
Here. We do have a couple vouchers that we need to transfer funds for. I don't have any that require discussion for this month. And so I'm looking for a motion to that $5,812.32 be transferred from account A9050.8, which is general employee benefits and employment, and that same amount be transferred from A7140.1, the general playground recreation personal services. The purpose of this transfer is for the payment of unemployment services during the pandemic state of emergency for our rec employees.
Want to take them individually?
Yeah, we'll take it individually.
Second.
Any discussion on that? We're just going through the first resolution down.
Yep.
I don't know, do you have copies of the video? Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. We're under discussion. Anybody have any comments or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next resolution we'll need is one that specifies $623.17 will be transferred to account A8810.4, which is general home community services cemeteries, and that same amount be transferred from A500, which is general assets, general clearing account. This is to ensure that we have enough funding for replacement of the cemetery fence that we've discussed at previous board meetings.
Correct.
So somebody would like to move that motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Only because I wasn't present. Was this a replacement of a worn out, or was there a damaged fence? Or?
Yeah, so on the cemetery down there, next to, I think it's
Griswold South, maybe?
Yeah, automotive. On the north side of that cemetery, we had a stockade fence that's been there for years. It had rotted out, and I think it was last year, the wind just basically toppled it over. And our rec guys went, cleaned it up, removed it from the premises, and we were going to go without a fence there. And
actually talked about split rail. We were going to do a split.
Oh, that's right. We're going to do a split rail.
And the neighbor wanted a stockade.
Right. So the neighboring property owner was willing to pay the difference in the cost. It added cost to the town to go up from the split rail to the stockade fence, which was there previously. So he made a generous donation to the town recreation, actually town general fund. So in order to have enough money in the rec budget, we need to transfer his donation to that account. And now we'll have enough to make the supplies, the purchase of supplies. Thank you. So we had a first and a second on that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And then the last account resolution to transfer funds is for an amount of $321, and that be transferred to account A4220.4, which is general health narcotics control, and that the same amount be transferred from account A1990.4, which is the general contingent fund. The purpose of this transfer is for the payment of the DOT drug screens performed on highway and water personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries unanimous. So I think we've got everything signed. We've got,
One more signature for Mr. Hogan.
okay.
Right on.
All right, we have all the necessary signatures for the vouchers. We've completed a transfer of funds, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills as audited.
Second, or so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Excellent, so we have, anything for auditing. I think we're all set until the regular town board meeting for 7 p.m. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the audit meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Monroe Town Board meeting for August 25th, 2020. And ask for a roll call from the clerk.
Councilmember Hogan.
Here.
Councilmember Noonan.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue.
Here.
Supervisor Kuznier.
Here. And before we have a pledge of allegiance, want to welcome back Council Member Van Tassel. We're very pleased that he once again is joining us as a member of the town board, and we look forward to doing great things together. So with that, I'll ask for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Item 1 on this evening's agenda is approval of minutes. And do we have microphones for everybody? Just want to encourage everyone who doesn't have microphones, it's harder to hear from the members in the back row versus the front row. I think this microphone picks it up pretty well, but I've heard from the public that when the members in the second row are talking, it's very helpful if you have a microphone in front of you. So
Right in front of my face.
So with that, again, looking at approval of minutes, we have 2 sets from August 11th. The first one is the public hearing on local law 3 of 2020, which is the multiple family dwellings minutes. And the second one, also on that day, was a regular town board meeting. I believe we can take them both together since everyone that is here now, with the exception of Council Member Van Tassel, was here for those meetings. So would someone like to move approval of the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from August 11th, 2020 for the public hearing of local law number 3 for the 2020 multiple family dwellings and August 11th, 2020 regular town board meeting.
Seconded.
Any discussion, corrections, comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Item 2 on the agenda is to set future meetings and workshops. I don't really need to set a meeting or a workshop at this time, but I would ask the board, the personnel committee, to consider setting up interviews for the clerk position that we created, I think, last year for the supervisor's office. As you all know, Rudy's no longer with us. He would put in up to 80 hours a month helping to put the vouchers together. I have to give kudos to Jeff Cruz and my secretary, Lisa Sperry, who have been working together to fill that void since Rudy's departure. However, now we're coming into budget season, and I can tell you that there is no spare time for anybody in my office to be able to take on that role. So one of the things that I'd like the board to consider is possibly rolling in that role with the other roles that we had discussed for that clerk position to assist with audit, also with water billing, basically backfill when we have staff that are either sick or on vacation in other departments, and go from there. So we have applicants, we have some interviewed, some staff that are interested in that position, but we also have new applicants that have applied for a job. So I would ask the personnel committee to take a look at those and see if there's any individuals that you want to interview, and take it from there. Maybe we can have a discussion at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And item 3 on the agenda is adoption of local law number 3. And I believe we already closed the public hearing on that at the last board meeting.
Yes.
And so now we have some housekeeping to do before we can actually take up the proposed local law for consideration. And I'll turn to council for guidance on that.
Sure. As you know, in order to approve the local law, you have to have seeker. And when I sent the packet out to you folks, I included both part 1 and then draft parts 2 and 3 of the seeker determination, the EAF. So what you'll need to do tonight is declare yourselves lead agency and accept seeker part 1, the EAF part 1, so that supervisor can sign it. And then we'll go through the part 2. And if you are agreeing with how I put it together, part 2 and part 3, you will issue a negative declaration. If you want to do other things, you can do that as well. So what you would need to do is first declare yourselves lead agency and then go into part 2.
Okay, thank you, council. Would you like to phrase the resolution for consideration so that we are accurate in the language?
Sure, it's very simple. You would want a motion to declare the town board lead agency for local law 3 of 2000.
Somebody like to offer that?
I'd like to make a motion to declare the town board lead agency for local law number 3, 2020.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. So the town has now declared itself lead agency.
So the next thing that you have is part 2 of the short EAF. And I don't know if you have that in front of you, but this is where you go through the 11 questions and you ascertain whether the action of adopting the local law is going to have a significant environmental impact. I am happy to go through and ask you all 11 questions. I've taken the liberty of indicating that the impact for all 11 is no or small impact, since this is the adoption of the law, not the actual action of the adoption of the law. So the environmental impact is small or not even there. So the question is, do you want me to read all 11 questions?
Yeah, I think that's important that we have it in the records.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? And if I could ask, I'd rate it's as marked as no or small impact. Is that acceptable?
Agreed.
Yes.
Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Again, no or small impact.
Agreed.
Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area? No?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? I've marked no or small impact.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies and public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Again, no or small impact.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact?
Agreed.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? No or small impact?
Agreed.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact?
Agreed.
And final question, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact.
Agreed.
So the next part is to go through part 3, which is a determination of significance. This is the area where you ascertain whether you believe there is a significant or not significant impact. Based on the answers you gave to part 2, you would check the box if you determine that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. I have checked that box. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So, is it the board's wish to declare a negative declaration for local law 3 of 2020?
Yes.
That part will be in the adoption resolution. So, Mr. Supervisor, you'll have to sign both part 1 and part 3. Yeah. The next step would be to adopt local law 3 of 2020, just to give a little more background, especially for Councilman Van Tassel, since you were fortunate enough to hang out with us last time during the very quiet public hearing. This law amends the zoning code to restrict multiple dwelling units to only the areas where they are right now, the UR area, and it restricts 2-family houses to the UR and the R2. So because it was zoning and because you connect next to the village of South West Falls, this had to go to Sarasota County Planning Board under the general municipal law. It was heard by the planning board at its monthly meeting last Thursday. I provided you with the decision, so that's part of the resolution that's been prepared for adoption is in front of you, and I am happy to read it. But if you're sitting hearing my voice, I'm sure Leanne would love to jump in.
We're gonna mix it up. We don't want Leanne to feel left out. So, I'll ask that she read it.
Resolution Town Board, Town of Monroe, subject adoption of local law 3 of 2020, amending chapter 149 zoning, the code of the Town of Monroe. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Monroe is considering the adoption of local law number 3 of 2020, which, if adopted as proposed, would amend chapter 149 zoning and the bulk use schedules to limit multi-family dwellings to the UR zone and limit 2-family dwellings to the R2 and UR zones. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 3 of 2020 is in the best interest of the town, and it is necessary to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of town residents and property owners. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 3 of 2020 is a necessary and proper exercise of authority by the board. And whereas the authority for the enactment of this local law is found in section 10(1)(I) of the municipal law. And whereas pursuant to section 20 of the municipal home rule law, a public hearing on the proposed adoption of local law number 3 of 2020 was properly noticed in the newspaper and posted and was duly conducted on August 11, 2020 at the town municipal complex and via remote streaming pursuant to executive order 202.1 at SEC. And whereas the board has considered the public comments made at the public hearing, and whereas the board serving as lead agency for this unlisted action under seeker reviewed a short environmental assessment form and determined that the action does not present any adverse environmental impacts. And whereas the Sarasota County Planning Board has issued a determination of no significant townwide or intercommunity impact associated with this local law. And whereas after the thorough review and deliberation, the board proposes to adopt local law number 3 of 2020. And whereas the attorney for the town has prepared the necessary documents for filing this local law with the Secretary of State, including the text of the law itself. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby adopts local law number 3 of 2020, which amends the law as stated above, and be it further resolved that the board adopts and authorizes the filing of the negative declaration. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the town clerk and the attorney for the town to make such minor modifications to the local law documents as they deem necessary, and thereafter are directed to execute and file the said documents as required by law, and to take all of the necessary action for the promulgation thereof.
Thank you, Leanne. Would someone like to move that resolution?
So moved.
Second. Seconded by Councilmember Hogan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Want these signatures?
Yes. Once, we have to change the overall names.
Yes.
And just so you're aware procedurally what happens now, if you recall, you put a moratorium on multifamily dwelling apartments, building permits, things of that nature. Now that this local law has been passed, once it's filed with the Department of State, the moratorium goes away by operation of law.
And I believe that moratorium was set to sunset on the 30th of August.
30th or 31st, right?
Okay, so it's probably going to coincide almost at the same time. So good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for that. And I have 2 documents signed. Do you need anything else on that for your filings? Okay. All right, item 4 on this evening's agenda, I have listed as crossing guards with school starting up that we know will happen shortly. I've been asked by some of the individuals that we employ as crossing guards as to whether their services are going to be continued to be utilized. And so I wanted to have a town board discussion on that. Just for budgeting purposes, we have 3 individuals that perform this service. They do it on the county road, which is Bluebird Road in front of Monroe Elementary School, which, as you know, has, I believe, a 15 or 20 mile per hour speed limit posting there. We also have an individual on Peter Dam Road, which is a town road, and Tanglewood Drive, which is also a town road. So they work 2 hours a day for approximately 10 months. They also get paid for school holidays as well. So what that does is it works out to approximately just over $15,000 annually. And so I'm looking for a direction from the board. Do you want to continue to have them work in that capacity? Do you want to have a resolution that says that upon a vacancy in any of those positions, we don't fill it? Just looking for where the board would like to go on that. One of the things I'm looking at as we put the budget together for next year is I'm essentially looking for anywhere where we have services that the board may want to trim in an effort to keep our taxes flat and also allow current staffing needs to be met. So I don't know what the board would like to do on that.
And I would love to save money where we can. I just don't know if the safety that they do provide, if we needed only one day, it's worth it. So I would be in favor of continuing to pay for these crossing guards using their services.
I'm going to say I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I'm quite familiar with the Bluebird Road, and that's, although a great little speed limit, that's a sharp, blinded corner spot. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Not knowing how, what's going to happen with schools going forward, it's a little unpredictable. But right now, we have an assumption all going to be good.
Yes.
I suggest yes. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Kyle. I think the safety for children is number one. We all want to save some money, but I guess.
So
especially like Bluebird Road and Tanglewood,
See Charles coming out.
Okay,
Like, it seems that.
that's fine. So I will report back to
My question, that the school does shut down or if there's another dismissal?
So,
Assuming we would not pay them.
no, so when school was shut down, we were required by the governor to pay them. So that's why I'm raising the question today. Oh, go ahead.
The reason you were required by the governor to pay them was due to an executive order. We would presume that if this happens, a similar executive order would come down the pipe, but, so it could or it wouldn't. It's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm getting on everybody's radar. You know, obviously those positions are funded through the end of this budget, which is 12/31. But, you know, they're looking for direction with the school starting up. And I wanted to have an open conversation. So it sounds like everybody's in favor at this point in time.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the time.
All right, so I will share that with our 3 part-time employees. All right. Item 5 on the agenda I have is the highway department. I got a couple items there. The first one is in relation to, as I reported at a previous board meeting, the new roof has been installed on the highway garage. The heating units are installed. We're still working with National Grid to get the necessary upgrade to natural gas line coming into the building. The only thing we don't have is that we need to have a penetration either up the sidewall or through the roof to vent the heating system. And the original plan was to duct it out the sidewall of the building. And along the way, Paul Joseph, our highway superintendent, indicated that that would impede the use of that space when they lift trucks up to work on them, because it would keep the trucks from being raised to necessary elevation. So there were ongoing conversations. The roofing company was not willing to originally not willing to warranty the roof system if we penetrated the roof. However, the town engineer working with the HVAC engineer were able to come to an agreement between the roofing contractor, roofing manufacturer, to come up with a penetration that won't void the warranty. However, with that, there's going to be an additional cost associated with that for to come back and do the work. Because the roofing company came, they did what we contracted them to do. They came, they saw, they left. And they've been paid for. However, Don, working with the various groups, has a price. It's just under $3,000 to do that penetration. I think board members have documentation on that. So Don Rhodes is recommending that we approve a resolution essentially allowing the expenditure of up to an additional $3,000 to complete the ventilation work on the highway roof.
All warranties that were
With all warranties, yeah, that would work. And let's see. I mean, I've got some engineering drawings if anybody wants to take a look at them. And so the resolution would read, to authorize the expenditure of up to $3,000 for RMB to provide a flue penetration with supporting structures below the roof with a 20-year warranty, and for Arrow to provide the rubber boot splash to the roof at each flue pipe. So
This funding is coming from.
So this is going to come from, we had earmarked over $600,000 for the roof replacement. We do have contingency for highway, but is it the general fund or?
It's the general fund.
So those have to come out of general fund. So we'll have to look at revenues or where we are with expenditures, see if that requires any budget changes. I think that at this point in time, it won't require a budget change. But we'll, that'll be a discussion for an audit meeting.
Looking for a motion as you read it.
Yeah. If the board's okay with that.
I think
So,
Second, any discussion? Here, pardon?
Get it done.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. What's that?
Follow, sure. They get this done before winter.
Oh, yeah, they can mobilize here. Put it this way, they'll have that done before natural gas is in there, I'm sure. But I just want to make sure that's the appropriate company. Yeah, so that's accurate with R&B and Arrow. They're both included in the motion we made. Okay, good. Should be able to start. Also, under highway, I received notice today from Saratoga County intake report that we had a highway laborer that was stung by a bee and required medical visitation at Hudson Headwaters on, I think it's the August 18th. And the questions that were filled out, the answer was the employee paid in full for the date of injury, yes. And has the injury resulted in death? No. So I want to make everybody aware of that. And also, it's not on the agenda, but the highway, I was informed early Monday morning by the highway superintendent that we had a break-in at the new highway garage and at the transfer station. I spoke with Paul just to get an update earlier this afternoon. It doesn't appear that anything was taken at this time from the highway garage other than a package that was erroneously delivered to the back door on a Friday, when obviously, the employees are working 410s and not there on Fridays. So they believe a couple containers of I think it's diesel fuel additive were taken. However, at the transfer station, apparently there is a kitty of petty cash down there that the employees collect as tips. And unfortunately, for the dogs in our community, that money is used to purchase dog treats, and they did take all that petty cash. Wasn't a lot, but it's unfortunate that here we have our residents trying to, representing us down there to work with our community, and have somebody that felt it appropriate to take something that wasn't theirs. So Deputy Sheriff is investigating, and I'll keep you posted on what we find out. I do know in talking with Paul that these types of break-ins have occurred, I think, in Hadley and Corinth, possibly, at least 2 other municipalities in the area. So we're just added to that string of break-ins. So that was unfortunate. Item 6 on the agenda is employee health care plan. As I indicated at the last board meeting, we're taking this up in the near future. Historically, we approve the plan for our employees so that when we put the budget together, we have accurate numbers. And just to refresh the board's memory, the town offers 2 plans. One is the HD HMO qualified 324 plan, also known as the silver HMO plan. There will be an increase of 2.5%, which is not too bad considering what's going on in other areas of costs for increased services. And those individuals who voluntarily select to go in the more expensive plans, just a handful of employees, that cost will increase by 4.87%. Our representatives from Yeager and Flint did indicate that next year is going to be a very difficult year for all municipalities because they expect to see possibly double-digit increases in health insurance plans. So under the circumstances, these are just slight increases, and they won't break the budget. However, they are increases. So with that, I'd like to ask the board for a resolution. Do you have a copy of the resolution? I'll read it. A resolution that the town of Monroe accept the following healthcare plans for town employees for the period beginning December 1, 2020 and ending November 30th, 2021. The first is the CDPHP HTHMO qualified 324 plan, with the second being the MVP Silver 3 EPO HTHP. And so be it further resolved that Yeager and Flint Associates have the authority to contract both CDPHP and MVP to procure these plans on the town's behalf.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, because I wasn't,
Oh, I'm sorry.
here during the review, was there any other changes to the plans other than the increases you noted?
No. Everything else remains. Dan, you want a copy of that? We did the roll call. No? All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. What? All right, next item on the agenda is Recreation Department. Got a couple of things there. First one that we will take up is in relation to a request by a resident, Zachary LaPointe, looking to use pavilion in November for the community center's annual holiday bazaar. And at this point in time, we're not allowing use of pavilions because of the COVID-19 outbreak. And we haven't changed that policy. Not sure what the future is going to hold as we move into the fall. Didn't know what the board's thoughts were on that policy at this time, so we can respond to them.
Well, I just don't think we can give them an answer a favorable answer at the moment. I would think as everything changes, I don't know when they have to let all their people know. But I don't think,
Does everybody have a
Copy of where, I read it.
Okay, I don't know if you received it. You have copies?
So.
He is also,
What's that?
he's also reached out directly to me several times, and I've been sort of waiting until I got some guidance from him.
Well, I get that. Here's my question. What if you were to use the fields, I'm sorry, use the fields and set up tents versus using our pavilions?
At the moment, it seems as though we are trying to avoid large gatherings, whether it's under a pavilion or within one of the fields and tents. I think the guidance we're seeing is that you want to limit large gatherings as much as possible. With the sporting events that we're doing, again, we're making every effort to keep people as spread as possible. With something like this proposed event, you know, the goal is to bring as many people as possible, and
Which is, well, counter to what
right,
the COVID-19
right.
recommendations are for stopping the spread. I got it.
My, you know, looking to see what the state has done. For me, when I see that the state is still not allowing the use of their pavilions or their, you know, day use areas and stuff for large gatherings, that tells me that there's still a clear concern about having large gatherings. My recommendation, for what it's worth, would be to not allow the use of our pavilions for the rest of the year for this event or anything else. I think I have about 5 reservations that were made back during the winter for September and October. And as I did with all of the summer reservations, I would reach out to those folks and let them know that we just can't safely have those types of gatherings this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that because we have already canceled for people that are lined up for the fall, it would be unfair that if we change the policy now, having told others they can't use it in the fall. But again, I mean, a lot can happen between now and November.
It's just time frame for them to be able to plan for it. I understand. And at this point, we're not allowing it, so my thought is not to allow it to happen.
Okay.
With regret, that, you know, I'm sorry, happen for it.
And so that's one item under rec. The next one I have, and I'll let Councilmember Hogan, unless he wants to do it under committee reports, talk about you know, some of our fall sports, fall tournaments. I did place it on the agenda at his request.
So it was, Peter was asking about being able to run some of these other sports programs that the state says are okay to run, and he was looking for guidance and or acceptance from the town board. And my feeling was that we should be able to proceed. The sports were lacrosse, soccer, and flag football. They are listed as a moderate contact sport, and that the concerns with the COVID are less with those sports, as long as they're following protocols established by the state. And I'm saying, I think we should allow them to reach out to these entities that have been looking for him to give them acceptance to do this and to move forward with that.
Yeah, and after I received this email on the 21st from Peter, I got an email from one of our residents, Jason Bittengale.
Yes.
Who is active with the Southwest Falls Girls Youth Lacrosse, looking for, you know, the town's approval to do the non-contact lacrosse based on the protocol that was established in July of this year. So I know you touched on it briefly, but I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that I did receive additional communication on it. So any other thoughts from board members? No,
I think we're doing everything right by the book, and I hope that this could relay over to get some kids out on the field as much as possible. I know they're all, the organizations, some of them are more ready to go than others, so those that are ready to go, if they meet our criteria and the state criteria, we'll do our best to get them out there. It's my thought.
And you have the staffing to accommodate them with field usage?
Staffing levels are good right now. Again, for lacrosse specifically, we may need to purchase some nets. But that fund for recreational programming has been untouched to this point. The other consideration is these programs like flag football, generally we do purchase t-shirts. So there will be some requests coming to the board from me over the next few weeks to kind of get our ducks in a row to offer those programs. But again, that budget line was untouched to date.
Maybe the organizers might even be willing to assist us since we are opening up with, helping with the purchase of medicine.
Yeah, I'm assuming the girls lacrosse program would probably, if it's just, we have the frames for this in the nets, right? I mean, I'm sure they've got nets, so they can bring their nets. They're one of these entities that would not need t-shirts or anything like that.
I believe they did donate some nets last year too, so. Yep.
Maybe the boys did, but maybe the girls used, because the girls used to always use different fields. But I think now they want to get it, at this point, so.
Any other comments?
Peter, I'd like to thank you for your hard work. I know I've had people contacting me, I've contacted you, very interested in getting this thing going. And, your hard work is certainly appreciated. I've had people say, well, thank you, board, because the report gives you okay, but Peter and his staff do the hard work. I'd like to thank you for all the hard work you do. And once again, as far as opening these things up again, according to state protocol, which is very important, and I'd hate to deny the community center their opportunity, but once again, I think we have to stay within state protocols. And they prove to be bringing the numbers down and getting this thing somewhat under control in the state. So I think it's important that we go by those protocols, and we seem to have everything set up. We seem to work well with the softball teams and things that we started up earlier. So I think we're on the right path. And once again, thank you for your hard work.
You're very welcome. Speaking of softball, that is my only remaining question. If we were to move forward with all of the fall rec sports, I'm seeking permission to move forward with several small softball tournaments.
Well, there's guidelines on those tournaments, whether they're coming from, participants are coming from outside the area or within the area, and we must stay within whatever those guidelines.
Yes, I can follow all of the guidelines outlined by the state. I've also been in contact with other municipalities in the area that have been offering tournaments to see what's worked and what hasn't. It will take a little bit of coordination in terms of limiting the number of fields in use at any one time and rotating fields so that one group can exit a playing area before another group comes in. But again, with the staffing level that you provided for me over the last few board meetings, we've added a couple of staff. I can do it, and I think that it will be very well received by the teams in the community that have been dying to use our fields. You know better than I do. I've only been here a year, but what I hear time and time again is the fields at Monroe Rec, that's where everybody wants to play. And I think they would be very excited to get some games in at the rec this year.
Are these tournaments that we would host as a town, or is this some of our local teams hosting them?
At the moment, I have 3 that are still on the schedule. They are all travel tournaments, but one of them would be hosted by the South Glens Falls Girls Softball.
Okay.
because of the restrictions, as far as where teams can travel from to participate in something like this, I anticipate that these tournaments will probably have 10 to 12 teams max, which is about half of what they normally would this time of year. And all of those teams will be right here from this area. As I said, we currently have 8 travel teams that have asked for practice time in September and October. So I suspect that all of them will be playing each other on these 2 weekends. So.
All right, anything else on that subject?
Just for clarity, probably was discussed before, but where's our position on the concession stand?
So the concession stand is closed, and my intent would be to keep it closed. There are some concerns, and in some of the guidance from the state, there are concerns about food handling and things. My understanding is prepackaged individual servings, so drinks, individually packaged chips and granola bars, things like that could be sold from a from a table, so long as the volunteers have masks and gloves and those types of things. But we certainly would not be using.
Well, I think you also have to have a physical barrier.
The concession stand. A physical barrier was not one of the items listed in the things that I have. But before I move forward with anything, I will make sure I can consult with the town's council, make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. Again, I don't think that would be a deal breaker if we have to say it's not possible to provide a barrier or something and that's necessary. So we're just going to pass on the food. I think that they'll be excited enough to just be able to come and play the games there. And again, it's
regarding the concession stands, there's some, like maybe there's no department of permitting that was happened this year. Is that correct?
so my understanding was South Glens Falls, their permit was valid for 2 years.
Okay.
It's still in force, but it's not in play or wouldn't be in play under these circumstances.
Okay. Was there like ducts that needed cleaning out, duct work?
There are several things with the concession stand that I would still like to try and complete before year's end. One of them was a cleaning and servicing of the hood and all of the fryer equipment and things. That's typically something that would have been done in the spring prior to the start of the spring rec softball season. It was not done. Again, knowing what we faced going into 2021 with that budget, there was money this year to have that work done, and South Glens Falls Girls Softball has committed to pay for half of the cost of that work. So again, that's something that I hope to bring to the board in the near future so we can get it done this year.
I would just add and remind all board members that we have very difficult financial times coming ahead next year. We've done an excellent job this year controlling expenses. Everything that is expended is requested through my office just to make sure it's a necessity. And by doing that, that's going to allow some of this money to come over and help meet the shortfall in sales tax for next year. I think we're down $150,000 in sales tax right now. As you know, we fund a lot of things with sales tax. So we still have to be vigilant on what we're doing with this year's budget. So just ask everybody to keep that in mind.
Sure.
All right, moving on to item 8 on the agenda is the planning board vacancy. And as a result of the appointments we made at the last town board meeting, we now have a additional vacancy on the planning board. And I received a request from a planning board alternate. It's actually from Ann Purdue, who's an attorney that serves as an alternate on the planning board. And she sent me an email on August 19th, says In a nutshell, I understand that Alan has moved back to the town board, leaving a vacancy on the planning board. I have very much enjoyed serving as an alternate over the past year or so, would be happy to fill the current vacancy. Let me know if and how I can be of help. Best regards, Ian. So if the board chooses to act on this request, it would be to fill a 7-year term, which was vacated by Councilmember Van Tassel, and it would carry through December 31st of 2026. So I don't know what the board's pleasure is on that.
I actually have heard the few times when she has been, or the part of the board, I think everyone has been pleased with her knowledge. I mean, so she has a career in it, so I think it's a fine appointment.
Yeah, I personally think it's a great choice. She's got a different perspective with her legal background, helps the board with some balance, and she's been in my interactions with her prior to being on that board, and while the short time on that board, we're all positive. I think she's a strong board member.
No thoughts?
I'm not familiar with it, but I would agree with the majority.
Anything else?
Sounds like a good fit.
Okay, so if the board would like to act on that tonight, I would need a motion to appoint Ann R. Purdue to the position of planning board member to fill the unexpired term vacated by the resignation of Alan Van Tassel.
Moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, I have appointments. I'm sorry.
So we'll have to think of all of it now, right? Because we've got all.
Well, we've got an ongoing posting on our website. We're looking for anybody who wants to step up, and we'll consider. Under appointments, it's basically just a formal process I have to make with Council Member Van Tassel joining the board. I'm going to ask him to fill the vacated committee assignments by former Council Member Leclerc, which include economics, small business and technology development, the industrial park, local waterfront revitalization, personnel and employee compensation, recreation, water and sewer district committee, Crandall Library liaison, and finally the Monroe Community Center liaison, if you would be willing to do that.
Sure.
I don't need a motion on that because that's an at-will appointment, correct, Council?
Correct.
So for the record, that was item 10. Item 10 I have listed as the Old West Road traffic study. We have been, as a board, we've heard from residents. We had town board members asking for an investigation, if you will, that might be a strong word, regarding truck traffic on Washburn Road and Old West Road down in the southern portion of town. And so as a result of that, I did request a traffic study from the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council. They graciously accommodated us through their engineering firm, Creighton Manning. August 21st, they released a report on their findings. I think every board member should have at least an electronic copy of it. I'll just highlight a couple points in the report. And we'll get it up on the town's website for the public to review so that they don't have to file the request. But essentially, they looked at what the existing conditions are down there, and that just for the record, they gave you a thumbnail sketch which says that the Hiram Hollow transfer station is located at 100 Washburn Road. It's operated by Casella Waste Systems and allows community residents, area businesses, and municipalities to drop off their permitted municipal solid waste, recycling, construction, demolition materials, and yard waste. However, it does not accept hazardous or liquid waste. Trucks are then used to offload the materials for final destinations, which include landfills, recycling plants, and incinerators. And that facility operates between 7 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to noon on Saturday. The areas that they study, as indicated, was Washburn Road, and there's what they did is they collected traffic volume data, and it showed that the Washburn Road serves approximately 425 vehicles per day. They also evaluated Old West Road. Their findings indicated that the traffic volume data that was collected by Creighton Manning was that the road serves approximately 775 vehicles per day west of Washburn Road. They also did a crash analysis. I know because safety was a big issue of concern. And under the crash analysis, they said that there were 2 crashes on Washburn Road and 3 crashes on Old West Road over the last 5 years, based on the data that they evaluated. Both crashes on Washburn Road were collisions with deer that involved property damage, while one of the crashes on Old West Road involved a collision with a deer that resulted in a non-reportable crash. Non-reportable crashes are collisions that result in less than $1,000 of damage. The remaining 2 crashes on Old West Road involved collisions with fixed objects. One was a tree, one was a fire hydrant, and that resulted in property damage crash and an injury crash. These collisions occurred on the sharp curve located approximately 200 feet southeast of US Route 9 and were the result of unsafe speed and driver error due to alcohol involvement. None of the crashes on the segments of Washburn Road or Old West Road involved a truck. A couple more points. I just picked out the highlights in the report. This study was conducted for the period of July 24th, 2020 through July 31st, 2020. They looked at speeds. And there's a table in the report that indicates the average speed on Washburn Road and Old West Road East is consistent with the posted 45 mile per hour speed limit, and that the 85th percentile speed on those roadways is approximately 5 to 10 miles per hour above the posted speed limit. By comparison, the average speed on Old West Road is generally 5 miles per hour below the posted 45 mile per hour speed limit, with the 85th percentile speed consistent with the posted speed limits. So in summarizing the study, they found that existing traffic volumes, vehicle classification, speeds and crashes on Washburn Road and Old West Road are as follows. The data shows that although truck percentages range from 7% to 27% of total traffic, truck traffic in the Hiram Hollow transfer station do not contribute to unusual traffic conditions, crashes, or speeds as compared to general traffic. Information published by the Washington State Transportation Center and Classification Vehicle Volume Distributions indicates that the national average heavy vehicle percentages for urban roads with a similar functional class as Old West Road and Washburn Road is approximately 5%. So we're within that 7 to 27% range. So anybody who really wants to pore over the data, there's an awful lot to look at. I welcome you to look at it, and if you want to offer comments on that at the next board meeting, feel free to do so. But just want to thank the Adirondack Falls Transportation Council for doing that for us. It was extremely thorough. We didn't have to pay for it, and we got information that we otherwise wouldn't have had. And we'll get that up on our website for anybody who wants to take a look at it. Item 11 is supervisor items. Just have a couple items to report on. The first one is I'm pleased to report that I signed a contract with the Northeast Hurricanes, which runs through October 31st, 2020 of this year. And they will be paying $1,700 for field use, which was what was approved by the board earlier in the year. So that's very good news and helping to grow our recreational offerings down there. I received, this is in relation to the Monroe Sewer Project. I received the SHPO findings letter, and it indicates from the Burrs Group, dear Supervisor Kuzniers, as you know, the Phase 1 Archaeological Survey report prepared by Stony Creek Archaeology for the town sewer project was submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, for review. SHPO has completed the review of this project and has issued a finding of no effect, and a copy of this letter will be in my office if anybody wants a copy of it. More unsettling news in relation to sales tax. I just received August 18th the updated sales tax reporting. And for the town of Monroe, as I indicated earlier in the meeting, year-to-date change, we're down $150,008 so far this year. August to August, this represents a 12% reduction in sales tax. Year-to-date, we're at just over 9% reduction. So the numbers are not where we want them to be. Received a little bit of bad news from Northern Border Regional Commission. As the board members are aware, we applied for funding through NBRC's Economic Infrastructure Development Grant. Competition was very strong this year, with applications up by over 35% compared to 2019, and we did not receive funding in this round. So not the news that we wanted to hear, but we also weren't counting on it either, so it's budget neutral. Right, Jeffrey? Just a notice. You've seen the maybe on Route 92, West River Road is currently closed between Route 197 and Clark Road. CP Rail is working on the rail crossing down there, and that should be closed through the 28th, and then it'll reopen. I did receive, actually Leanne received an email, which she forwarded to my office from the folks over at the Head Start. They've indicated an uptick in the number of people coming to their building looking for town hall and court. You know, we have signage out there. Even with the new signage that we put up last year at the firehouse, I can see from my office everybody turning in there to go to the court on court day. And actually, some just drive right across the lawn because they don't want to go back out on the highway to come to court. So anyway, they say the issue has gotten worse for them. They have concerns because they have small children playing outside with strangers coming up, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic in play. So maybe one of the things we might want to look, have buildings and grounds, take a look at our signage. Maybe it can be more clear. Maybe it can be relocated. Anything we can do to minimize the number of people going to the wrong building. So I'll be happy to respond with them if somebody wants to take a look at that, see what we can do. Another item I have, I was asked to participate in a webinar with supervisors and village mayors from, up and down the eastern side of New York State with the Laborers Group, where we had an hour-long discussion talking about how we're navigating the COVID-19 fiscal challenge. I outlined the steps that we as a town took to minimize the impact on our budget, also to put in place safety protocols, protect our staff and the public. It was very good, especially for some of the smaller towns, to hear from the larger towns. We had a town on there that has a population of 150,000. Makes ours look kind of small, 15, 16,000. We also had towns on there with a population of 4,000. So we weren't the largest, but we certainly weren't the smallest. And a lot of good information was circulated based on all of our experiences in our particular towns or villages. Let's see. New York State DOT continues to work down to light. They've done some more culvert replacements. They're working there. I'm kind of impressed how much time they put in there, because that grade all is not assigned to this region. They have to share it among 4 regions, and we've had it for a couple of weeks now, so they're making headway there. Hopefully that helps some of the surface water issues that are down in that area. I have a copy of the Merle Infill #1 semi-annual 2020 post-closure explosive gas monitoring report. Everything's in place. Anybody wants to take a look at it, I have it in my office. Stimulating reading. And I believe that's all I have. So committee reports. Anybody want to report on committees?
Just a transportation. After our change rating and authorizing for small trailer method 6x12, what we had worded apparently was an arguable rendition. So I asked Lisa to rewrite this, and it's been rewritten and submitted to Ted. And hopefully it's not arguable as to what's allowed and what isn't, and what the cost will be.
I saw Lisa put it out today, so hopefully it's in their hands tomorrow.
Yes.
That would be very nice to have that.
Is it arguable, or is it difficult for our town employee to hang out somebody?
Well, you can see how it's written at this point.
This is what it currently says?
That's what we submitted today.
So what's the arguable part?
Well, the arguable part was that.
Oh, this is today, okay.
So it previously had dump trailers, state bodies, dump trucks, and utility trailers larger than exceeding 6x12 to be $30 fee. People were arguing that dump trailers, if they were a little smaller than 6x12, you wouldn't have to pay for them.
No dump trailer.
Huh?
No dump trailer, but I appreciate the change, right?
It should be clear that dump trailers are $30 fee. But the way it was written, they were arguing that, well, this trailer
Also,
falls under the 6x12. So it should be fine at this point.
Excellent. Thank you for taking that.
I look forward to revising it next week and 2 weeks.
Anything else?
Sorry.
No, we know that it was broken into.
Yeah.
That's a line.
Any members?
Any other committees?
Oh, yeah, one thing. Carl, how we go on our solar law draft? We're going to continue on with the change recommendations and stuff.
Absolutely. As you're well aware, by my numerous emails in the past week and a half, their last meeting, the board's been given a couple sections of the law each time. The board has been very good at responding and giving me some feedback. I had sent one out a couple days ago, and I think JD, I think you sent me your response today, maybe, or last night. But I'm getting the information in at this point. We're moving forward. I as you all know from the emails, because there is such a difference between, an opinion between a couple of you on the board, I don't know as if you're going to get a full unanimous, go ahead, Carla, we'll send this out. You may have to say, for example, on your farm, your productive farmland definition, some of you want it, some of you don't. You're gonna have to come to a consensus saying, whatever it is now, we're gonna, not now, but when it's done, we'll send it out and we'll deal with the public hearing and then we'll talk about it. But at this point, you know, that's gonna be on you. You're all, I think I sent you an email at least once a day, every other day or whatnot on it. So it's moving forward as expected.
Well, in fairness to our new board member too, you know, Alan's just got on the board again, and we want to make sure he has an opportunity to weigh in on that as well.
Right, and Alan hasn't been able to. I know he's looked at it, he hasn't been able to give me any comments yet.
So
I had a comment.
yes.
I did talk to Jim Mark today
You did talk to Jim Martin today about which one?
about the 18 inches of.
Yes, oh, you did.
And he said it was aesthetics, and I pointed out what my thoughts were. He said I can change that. It's not a big deal.
Okay,
But it was a matter of aesthetics and to have no higher than the upper roof line.
okay, so I'll email him and I'll email you guys just to make sure that that's what he wants to do and how you want to change it. I'm trying to create as much of a record for all you folks as possible.
Sure.
So that when we come to creating it, there's not any, but I did say that, it's all right there.
Excellent, we appreciate that. We're going to need an executive session this evening. And I'll let council
We need an
craft.
executive session for the potential purchase of real property interest and the cost thereof.
Somebody like to move that we go into executive
And
session.
then I don't believe there will be action taken after, there won't be action taken during it, but there won't be anything after.
Would someone like to move?
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously, we're in executive session. You all set? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session and have the motion indicate that no action was taken in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. I don't have any other business this evening. I don't know if any other board member does. If not, entertain a motion to adjourn this.
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Thank you, everyone.